Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why Ram trucks are not selling. Before we get in this video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Dodge Ram Jeep Chrysler here in Sandy. I'm going to be using their lot to film this video. I do need to mention that they do not approve or endorse this video whatsoever, because obviously I'm talking about product that they sell that is not selling. But if you happen to be interested in Ram trucks, Jeeps, Chryslers, or Dodges, like I said, I'll include a link to their inventory in the description down below. They have great deals on all of the product. And with that being said, as always, if you're gonna save time, money, the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get into the video. Let's start things off by going over Ram's sales figures, because I think this is absolutely fascinating. Now, over the course of the last decade, Ram has seen a massive amount of growth. Back in 2010, Ram sold less than 200,000 vehicles, and their market share here in the US was only 1.73%. Now, fast forward to 2016, Ram's market share had jumped up to over 3%, and they sold almost 550,000 units here in the US. Now, their highest year in terms of overall volume was 2019, and that was the same year that they had the new 1500 and 2500 and 3500. They sold over 700,000 units. Their market share at that point was 4.13%. However, their market share peaked out in 2021. That year they sold 647,000 units, but they had a market share rate of 4.33%. And so Ram has obviously had a massive amount of growth over the last decade, eating up a bunch of market share, especially in the truck world. However, 2022 saw a massive decline for Ram. Their market share is now below 4% as of 2022, and they sold 545,000 units in 2022. So they went from tons of growth to now they're starting to pull back in terms of overall volume. Now, if we look at the other American truck makers, this whole situation is not isolated to Ram, because Ford had their biggest year back in 2018 where they sold over 900,000 F-Series trucks, and since then they've been declining. Like in 2022, they sold only about 650,000 F-Series trucks. And then if we jump over to GMC, we'll actually see a somewhat similar story, but they actually peaked out a little bit later. GMC peaked out in 2020. They sold 253,000 vehicles, and since then they've been slowly declining, but not nearly as much as Ford. I mean, 2022 they still sold 240,000 vehicles, so not as much as what Ford is seeing, and that's with GMC Sierras. And then with Chevy Silverados, it looks like they peaked out at 2020 as well, almost 600,000 units sold, and since then they've pulled back quite a bit. 2022 saw about 520,000 units sold. And so if you just go by the numbers, Ram and Ford are actually declining by quite a large margin, whereas GM still seems to be selling quite a few trucks. Now, the thing to note is those Ram sales figures do include ProMasters as well. If you're wondering, 2022 saw about 60,000 ProMasters sold. So if we go back to Ram's 2022 number, 545,000, that means that Ram sold less than 500,000 trucks between the 1500s, 2500s, 3500s, so on and so forth. So the data basically shows that, yes, every single truck maker is currently struggling right now, and a big part of that is because of the current economic situation with record inflation and with interest rates at the highest point that they have been in decades. But at the same time, General Motors is not declining at the same rate that Ford and Ram are declining at. And so I will be making a dedicated video as to why Ford F-Series trucks are currently selling, because it's kind of like a double situation there, because there's an issue with production, there's also an issue with some other stuff, but this video is obviously dedicated to Ram, so we'll focus on Ram. So the next thing I want to do is let's take a look at a Ram truck, and then let's bring everything together and try to figure out why Ram trucks aren't selling. We need to talk about today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Now, nobody wants to get into a car accident, an accident at their workplace, or, slip and fall in front of a business, but sometimes it just happens to be a part of life. And I can speak about this from a place of personal experience, because when I was 17 years old, I got in a really bad car accident where my car got totaled out. And because I didn't know anything about insurance companies or getting help by a law firm, I basically got completely screwed in the situation where I got no money for my totaled car, and I was left without a vehicle. And this is where Morgan & Morgan can help out. They are America's largest injury law firm with over 100 offices, over 800 lawyers, and over 4,000 case staff that are all ready to help you out. Now, I know at this point you might be thinking, Ben, that sounds really expensive, but here is the deal. All of the court hearings, the research, the negotiation, and more are free unless you win. And so if you're involved in some sort of personal accident, whether it be a slip and fall accident, an accident at your workplace, or maybe a car accident similar to what I was involved in, then you might want to get help from Morgan & Morgan. And don't feel bad that you're going down the route of suing. I know a lot of people might feel guilty about this, but what you have to understand is you're not suing the person or the business. You're suing their insurance company that has billions upon billions of dollars. And so it's more about making sure that you get the compensation that you deserve. So again, if you're injured in an accident, then you can check out Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/Ben Hardy, or you can give them a call at pound 529, which is pound law. I think that's so cool that they got that number reserved. But again, www.forthepeople.com/Ben Hardy. Now, I quickly want to use this Ram 1500 Limited as part of this video to hopefully help explain why these Ram trucks are not selling as well as they did in the past. Now, if you don't know, the Limited is the top of the line, fully loaded luxury package, and it's a very nice truck. I mean, just look at how this thing looks. It's beautiful. And on top of that, it has really nice features like power side steps, and you can see we've got these beautiful leather seats. And for a pickup truck, frankly, I think this has like the nicest interior in the truck industry. There's so much wood, so much leather, just again, a beautiful truck. And so then you might be wondering, if this truck is so nice, then why would people not be interested in purchasing this truck? And I think that it's actually a couple of things. Now, the first reason I believe is going to be this badge right here, 1500 Hemi E-Torque, and it's, well, the powertrains. With the 1500 series trucks, we've had the same powertrains for quite some time. Yes, Ram added the mild hybrid system to the 1500, which improved it quite a bit, but it's still the same old 5.7 Hemi. You've got the EcoDiesel, which was updated, but still the EcoDiesel. You got the 3.6 liter V6, and that also has a mild hybrid system, but again, it's still the 3.6 liter V6. We need a new powertrain, I think, to bring things up a little bit with the Ram. And then if we pop over to the heavy duties, I feel like it's a similar story. We've got the 6.4 Hemi, which had the update of having the 8-speed automatic transmission added to it. You've got the two different output versions of the Cummins. You've got the Aisin, then you have the 68 RFE. But again, similar story, even though they keep increasing the torque figure on the high output version of the Cummins, it's still the same 6.7 liter Cummins. It's still a 6-speed automatic. So I feel like on the diesel side of things, we also kind of need some, bigger powertrain updates. And speaking of updates, this is another weird thing. Ram still sells the 4th generation truck alongside the 5th generation truck. They call it the Classic Edition, and it does help out with their overall volume, but I feel like it confuses the lineup a little bit, because it's like, why are you still selling the old vehicle alongside the new one? Like, no other automaker does this. And then finally, this leads us back over to the Limited, because although this is a very nice truck, this truck has existed in this form since the 2018 sales year. That is right. You could get a 2019 truck in 2018, and Ram has updated this truck a little bit. Like, we've got this new digital gauge cluster. You can get a heads-up display now, which I don't know if there you go. You can also get this cool feature right here, which is a rear view camera mirror. And then this truck doesn't have it, but there's like a new trailer backup system similar to Ford's system that you can get as well. So the point I'm trying to make is Ram has added some few tweaks here and there, but ultimately this is the same exact truck that Ram released back in 2018 for the 2019 model year. And so again, I feel like it goes without saying that this needs more updates, more than just a gauge cluster, heads-up display, a new camera rear view mirror. It needs not necessarily a full redesign, but I would say a heavy refresh at this point. But despite everything that I just stated, I don't think that any of that really pales in comparison to the biggest issue with the Ram trucks, and that's the price. So you guys can see base price here, $67,550 without any options added to this Limited. Now, when I sold Ram trucks back in 2018, when this new truck came out, you could get a fully loaded Limited that's stickered for this amount, and this is now the base price. Now, this isn't even considered a fully loaded one. This sticker's for $76,810. If you get a Limited with every single option, you're going to be well over $80,000 at this point. And in my personal opinion, the price increases that Ram has put out is the biggest thing that's going against the truck right now. Because again, like I just showed you, the truck has changed a bit since the 2019 model year, but it hasn't like fundamentally changed. It's ultimately pretty much the same truck that you could buy back in 2019, but it costs substantially more. And when you compare a like Ram to a like Ford or Chevy in today's market, what you'll find is that the Ram is actually typically the most expensive. What we saw historically is that Fords were always expensive, and then Chevys were usually a little bit less expensive than Fords, and then Rams were usually the most affordable. But now it's like flip-flopped, where Chevys are the most affordable, Fords are in the middle, and then Rams are the most expensive at this point. And so Ram, with this 5th generation Ram 1500, I feel like went from playing the value card to now they're saying that we know that our product's as good as Ford and Chevy, and hey, I will commend them on that. I think that the Ram 1500 is as nice, if not nicer, than both of those trucks. But then they're also asking the money for it. And so it's of course going to lead them to selling fewer trucks overall, because again, huge price increase without, in my opinion, a huge value add. Because as cool as this digital gauge cluster is, as cool as the rear view camera is and the heads up display, it's not, you know, the price increase, I think on like a Limited, for example, is like over $10,000 is what we've seen over the last few years. It's not $10,000 more exciting to me. Now, one last point that I want to make on the Ram truck situation is going to be with the heavy duties. And that is the fact that a lot of heavy duty Rams currently have an open recall on them that is a stop sale recall. And so with the heavy duties, I think a big part of why they are quote unquote not selling right now is because they can't be sold because of the recall. And so I feel like the situation is more so about the half tons than it is about the heavy duties. So in summary, Ram makes a great pickup truck, whether it's a half ton or a heavy duty. And on top of that, their trucks frankly are reliable. And I will stand by that statement, because I sold a bunch of Ram trucks and I owned a TRX for a couple of years and absolutely abused the heck out of that truck, and it just took it. Like, it's crazy how durable the trucks are. And so I just don't think that the product is the problem. I think Ram makes a great product. And frankly, once Ram throws the Hurricane engine in the 1500, I think that's going to just absolutely elevate the truck. And then with the diesels, once Ram puts a more modern transmission with the diesel trucks, I think that'll also elevate those trucks a massive amount. But that's not the deal. The problem here with Ram is just their pricing scheme. Their trucks are so expensive, especially when you compare it to the competition at this point. If you look at an equivalent Ford or Chevy, like I said earlier in the video, chances are they're going to be less money at this point. Or even like a GMC. GMC's, right, those are always a little bit more expensive, and it seems like Rams are now even more expensive than GMC's as well. And so I think that if Ram really does want to sell more pickup trucks, then, you know, either they're going to have to decrease those MSRPs, which automakers never do that, or they're just going to have to be okay with releasing big rebates if they want to really incentivize people to purchase their product. Because again, if you go into a Chevy dealership today, what you will most likely experience is the dealer will ask you to pay MSRP. If you go into a Ford dealer, they'll ask you to pay MSRP on a pickup truck. And if you go into a Ram dealer, they'll probably say, yeah, we're discounting this thing off of MSRP, because again, it's just how the market has shifted with the Ram trucks. So I want you guys to let me know why you think that Ram trucks aren't selling. Do you think it's the product? Do you think it's the pricing? Do you think it's, you know, the competition out there? And again, I just want to like reiterate, I think frankly it just comes down to the pricing. I think that it's super competitive with the Ford and with the Chevy. I think, yeah, that's just how it goes. I'll see ya.